Hello everyone, welcome to Broken Lives, Silence Turkey. My name is Renee Vaugeois, broadcasting to you from Amiskwitchi-Waskahegan, otherwise known as Edmonton, Alberta, here in Canada, where I serve as Executive Director of the John Humphrey Centre for Peace and Human Rights. I'd like to welcome you, along with our other partners, the Human Rights Foundation and Renewed Democracy Initiative, all nonpartisan and nonprofit organizations working to promote and protect human rights, while also building towards action and civic engagement. Today, we have come together to bring to surface some of the many challenging truths within the borders of Turkey. Since a bold coup attempt in 2016, the Hizmet movement, or otherwise known as the Gulen movement, has been labeled a terrorist organization, and people associated with this movement have since faced state abuse and violence. I've always questioned how this could be possible, as the people, from what my experience has been, are a peaceful movement of people who care deeply about their families, their communities, and the fundamental rights of justice, education, and democracy. The accusations of human rights violations in Turkey span many abuses, including unfair trials, violent arrests, arbitrary detentions, torture, forced disappearances, children in prisons, media censorship, the breakdown of the legal systems, and public sector crackdowns. The attacks on the judiciary, the media, the academics, teachers have created a state of fear. Now, over the course of the next hour or so, we'll be interviewing and hearing from a number of individuals who've been impacted by human rights violations in Turkey. And I want to acknowledge today that those that come to share those stories and how difficult those may be, and the potential impact that this has on their families and friends. And I also want to warn you that some of these stories are difficult and will not be easy to hear. And just noting as well that any political statements are of our own as individuals and not necessarily of the organizations that host today. The struggle for human rights is alive and real in so many places of our world. And the most critical piece in the push to ensure the dignity and security of all is to bring to light the issues, to talk honestly about them and courageously, and find ways of working together to strengthen our shared humanity, but also our shared solidarity. And it's only through love that we can find this solidarity. According to the words of Fethullah Gulen, it is those who overflow with love that will build the happy and enlightened world of the future. Now more than ever, love needs to rise, and to love is to seek truth and to seek light. All right, to start us off today, I'd like to welcome our first guest, Enes Kanter. As many know, Enes is an NBA player with the Boston Celtics and a human rights activist and an outspoken critic of human rights abuses. He's brought light and used his platform as an NBA player for the last 7 years to bring lights to human rights abuses, and particularly what's happening in Turkey. And he's also initiated the You Are My Hope campaign. So welcome, Enes, to the broadcast today. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you guys for inviting me. I appreciate it.
So I'm wondering, Enes, if you could start us off today as our first guest to kind of give us a bit of what's happening in Turkey. I'm wondering if you could give some context to the viewers today.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think I'll just start with, it all started back in 2013. There was a corruption scandal happening in Turkey. And back then, I wasn't actually in America, and I was playing basketball for Utah Jazz. And I remember first time I heard about the scandal, it was President Erdogan, his family, and some of the congressmen was involved in it. And after that, so scandal, corruption, President Erdogan started to put in journalists in jail, whoever talks about this issue. He started to shut down media outlets if you are a newspaper writing about this stuff. And I think that was the first time that I said something about it, And I actually put a tweet out there. And just because of the platform that NBA given me, I saw the power of one tweet. It went viral, and it became a conversation here in America and obviously in Turkey. And I saw like I said, power of the one tweet. And after that, I started to pay attention to what's going on more in my country. Not just going out there play basketball, but just more than that, and started to, educate myself about some of the issues that are happening. Started to pay attention more about, foreign relations, relationships between America and Turkey. And obviously, after that, the Turkey was never the same. And like I said again, I remember, my teammates were just, going out to eat, and they were going out to having fun and stuff. But I was going back home to study and educate because I wanted to do more than that. I wanted to be more than just a basketball player. So that it all started back in 2013.
It's incredible. So can you tell us a little bit more about like how the situation has impacted you directly? I know like you're a stateless
Mhm.
person, which is
Right.
not a lot of people have that, but I know you've also been disconnected from your family. So there's this personal impact on you. I'm wondering if you could
Mhm.
share a little bit.
I mean, whenever we're obviously talking about this issue, especially if you are talking, I guess some of the issues are happening to Turkey, obviously affected me and my family. I remember it was back in 2016, 17. My dad was a genetic professor. He got fired from his job. My sister went to medical school for 6 years. Now she cannot find a job. And probably the saddest one is my little brother was playing basketball in Turkey, and he wanted to become an NBA player one day. But he literally got kicked out in every team because of the carry the same last name as me. So they were just, and then the rest of my family was keep getting fired from their job. My family had to put a statement out there and said we are disowning this, and they made it publicly. And I
Hmm.
remember going to practice that day. It was probably one of the toughest days of my life. And
Yeah.
obviously, Turkish government didn't believe that. They sent police to my house in Turkey, and they raided the whole house. And they literally took every electronics away, phones, computers, laptops, because they wanted to see if I am still in contact with my family or not. And if they would see any text message, any missed calls or email, or any kind of notification, they will be all in jail. They actually, after that raid, they actually took my dad in jail for a while.
Mhm.
But we put so much pressure from here, America to Turkey, they let him go. And my dad finally had his freedom after 7 years going in and out of jail and in and out of Turkish courts. But I mean, after he got his freedom, my dad, I remember a lot of my teammates, a lot of my people that I know was texting me. Is like, hey, listen, you can focus on basketball now. You can, just have fun now. You can smile again. But like, people didn't don't understand. Like, my fight is not over. It's just getting started because my family and my dad is only one. There are so many families and situations out there is way worse than mine.
Yeah, and I think your situation is an example of like what
Mhm.
other people are facing, but yet you have this platform to push back on in some ways. And you were also, from what I understand, in Indonesia, you were almost kidnapped, and that
Mhm.
piece about extraditing back to Turkey. And so there's been all these pieces, which I think your story connects to a lot of other stories that would be unheard
Mhm.
in many ways. I'm just wondering, I want to ask you more about the You Are Hope campaign, but I was just
Mhm.
one more question before that, though, is I'm just wondering, like, from my angle as a Canadian
Mhm.
watching all this, it's been an interesting negotiation for me to figure out like why why is this going on so long? Why is it so quiet in the world stage in terms of really looking at Turkey and understanding what's happening? And I'm wondering if you have, you know, some thoughts on that. And like it has been a duration of already 7 years
Right.
almost. You started speaking out, and you know, why do you think it's being able to continue so long? Why is it so hard to kind of bring attention to the issue in Turkey? Do you think?
I feel like in Turkey, everyone uses media to brainwash people, and also he censors media.
Mhm.
And so I feel like more people needs to step up and talk about this issue. I mean, if you have a platform, I'm talking about if you're an athlete, if you're an actor, singer, rapper, you know, the number one thing is like, we first of all, we need to inspire our young generation. So
Mm.
when they grow up, and they won't have the same problems we are having right now. They won't have the same problems we are facing right now. So I feel like, you know, if you have a platform, use this platform to bring good and bring peace and love. And it's funny because like we like I said again, we need to bring more attention. Whenever I have sit down with one of my teammates or coaches or someone from NBA or my friends from just actors or singers, whenever I sit down and talk about this issue, first thing they tell me is like, listen, dude, you are an NBA player. Why don't you just, and your family's back in Turkey, they're getting affected. Why don't you just keep your mouth shut, make your millions, and live a happy life? But like I said, again, they don't understand because you guys know my story because I played NBA, right? But there are 1,000 stories out there. It's way worse than mine.
Yeah.
You look at in Turkish the jails right now, they're the number one country in the world that put the most journalists in a jail. And last time I checked, there are over 17,000 innocent women are in the jail, and almost like I think 1,000 babies with their mother.
Yeah.
And and there's so many reports out there. You look at Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, Human Rights Foundation. These people are getting tortured and raped. And the latest news that because of the coronavirus, Turkish government decided to free all the serial killers, child rapists, human traffickers, smugglers, and thieves, mafia leaders. But they decided to keep all the political prisoners and journalists in the jail. I mean, this is unbelievable to me. So whenever I sit down with my teammates and talk about this issue, I have a one-on-one conversation with them. The next thing they ask me, how can we help you? So I feel like we need to talk about these issues more because it's important to the whole world, and it's important to stand up against dictators.
Yeah, and to not let the impunity just sit there, right?
Right, for sure.
Can you tell me then more about this You Are My Hope campaign? Like what's it about? Why is it important? What should we be paying attention to?
So, whenever I have sit down, like I said, my teammates or NBA family, or even, politicians, senators, congressmen, congresswomen, so lawmakers, and especially some of the people in White House, whenever we have sit down and talk to them, whenever I have this conversation with them, they always stop me in the middle. And they're like, listen, we already know the situations. We already know who's right, who's wrong. The question is, how can we help you?
Yeah.
I was like, you're right. I need to bring them something that they can just put their name, put their signature, and involve in it, and stand up against all the human rights abuses in Turkey. That's why we come up with this beautiful campaign called "You Are My Hope." We are trying to, collect as much as signature we can. It will literally take not even 1 minute of your day. You will just go to youaremyhope.org, sign the petition, and trying to, free all those political prisoners in Turkey. And with those signatures, we are planning to, go to Human Rights Court, United Nations, even European Union maybe, and also a White House, and tell them, look, there are so many people behind this cause. There's so many people put their name and signature to this cause. So let's take action. Let's not just talk about it. Let's not just tweet about it. Let's be about it. Because our goal is when we grow up, our kids and our grandkids won't have the same problem we are having right now. So they can live in a world that which is equal. So we born free, and all the people have an equal right to freedom. So we have to fight for it.
And we have to create this movement and bind together and come across our differences. And that I think, the situation in Turkey it's fascinating because it's a pivotal space in the political geography of our world in so many ways. And it's interesting. So just one more question for you, Enes, is the other piece that I've been trying to wrap my head around a lot of times is the logic of pointing the blame at the Fethullah Gulen and the movement. What can you see as the logic behind that? Why is there a target to the Gulen movement specifically, do you think?
Well, because that movement was the Gulen movement was the only movement that stand against the dictatorship in Turkey. Because you look at all the journalists in Turkey, you look at all the media outlets, all the newspapers, all the people who has platform, all the celebrities, pick the dictatorship side because a lot of benefits, and they were scared to say anything. That's why I'm wearing this shirt, Silence is Violence. And the Gulen movement was the only movement that would say, listen, you're doing it wrong, right? And the Turkish government did not like that. And I'm just so very proud of them And I mean, about the Gülen movement, I try to visit, Mr. Gülen probably once a month before this coronavirus. And every time I go there, he always talks about one question: what can we do to make this world better together? Because he believes, it doesn't matter what your background is, it doesn't matter what your skin color, your religion, or your ethnicity, or what your background. The most important thing in life is leave your differences on the table and try to find what we have in common. I say this every time and people laugh, but we only have one world to live, till Elon Musk or, Jeff Bezos or somebody find another planet to live. This world is what we have. So let's focus on making this world better together. And he only, this movement only cares about education, because we believe there are so many problems are happening in our world right now because of uneducated people. And we're going to win this with education. And the one word really gets me is universal peace.
Yes. And I love that you bring up education too, because I saw a quote of yours where you were talking about when you have a country that is like quashing and shutting down schools, how can we stand in silence around that? And I think that's the piece, and what you highlight is, not only is it media crackdown, it's public sector crackdown, it's, all these spaces in our education systems. And that's a longer journey of oppression in many ways. So I thank you so much for all you do for movement, but also raising human rights awareness about Turkey. I'm just wondering if there's any last thoughts that you want to share with everybody before we wrap up.
I mean, the last thing I would like to say is whenever we are talking about these issues, I mean, don't get me wrong. I love my country. I love my flag. I love my people. I wish I could go back to Turkey right now and visit my family and my neighbors and my friends over there. Our problem is with the current regime in Turkey. And I am so proud of the people who are standing up against the dictatorship, because they're facing a very rough times. I mean, because Turkish government, I mean, if you're in Turkey and talk against the government, right, you'll be in jail. But if you're outside of Turkey, one of the things they do is the government uses their power to abuse red notice system, Interpol. So they will put your name on Interpol and try to deport you back to Turkey. And that is what they did to me. I was a Turkish citizen, and they revoked my passport, put my name on Interpol. Well, luckily, I'm going to become an American citizen next year. But not everyone is lucky as me. You look at so many countries in the world that so many people getting deported back to Turkey. So I feel like we need to bring light to that conversation. And the last thing I will say is, just keep fighting for good. Just keep getting yourself in a good trouble. And that quote. I feel like we need to stand up for what's right, even if it means sacrificing everything, even if it means, sacrificing a lot. So let's come together and let's stand for freedom, democracy, justice, human rights, and let's stand against dictatorships. With the S in the end, because the problems are not just happening in Turkey, it's happened all over the world. So we need to come together. And like I said, again, silence is violence.
Yeah. And if we can make shifts in like one country around a dictatorship, I think the inspiration that gives for so many others is remarkable. So thank you so much for sharing that, and best of luck with the journey ahead. We're looking forward to working with you and getting to know you better. And we'll make sure we push out that You Are My Hope campaign. And yeah, thank you so much, Enes, for everything.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Hey, this is Terry Crews, and I am in support of Enes Kanter and the You Are My Hope initiative. Please be the voice of the voiceless, and please support and sign the petition right now.
I'm sending my very best to Enes to give him more power, to give him strength, and to give him resiliency, and to give him patience as he continues to fight for the human rights of millions of people around the world. God bless you, Enes, and God bless those that are significantly impacted by tyranny.
I'm here to tell you that I support my good friend Enes Kanter and his tireless work for victims of human rights violations around the world. Please go and sign his petition to the You Are My Hope campaign.
Hi, I'm Congressman Eric Swalwell of California, and I support Enes Kanter's You're My Hope initiative. Enes's effort here in the United States seeks to bring human rights and justice for those who are imprisoned and being oppressed in Turkey.
So on behalf of democracy, on behalf of hope, on behalf of humanity in Turkey, here in the United States and everywhere, we have to continue to fight together. So Enes, thank you so much for your leadership. And I'm so happy to lend my voice in support of your efforts. We have to win this fight. We have to win it for all of us.
I support Enes Kanter and his efforts in advocacy for human rights violations around the world. And I invite everyone to sign his campaign, You Are My Hope.
I support the You Are My Hope initiative. Just one click can help thousands of people who have been stripped of their human rights.
The Convention Against Torture and Other Cruel, Inhuman, or Degrading Treatment or Punishment defines torture as any act by which severe pain or suffering, whether physical or mentally, is intentionally inflicted on a person for such purposes as obtaining information or confession, punishing for an act one has committed or not committed, or suspected of committed, or intimidating or coercing, when such pain or suffering is inflicted by or at the instigation of, with the consent of public officials or other people operating in an official capacity. So the UN Special Rapporteur on Torture, Niels Menser, has expressed serious concerns about the rising allegations of torture and other ill treatment in Turkish police custody. Reported abuse includes severe beatings, electrical shocks, exposure to icy water, sleep deprivation, threats, insults, and sexual assault. And complaints asserting torture were allegedly dismissed in Turkey, citing a state of emergency decree. Ömer Gergerlioğlu is a medical doctor, human rights activist, and a member of parliament for the People's Democratic Party in Turkey. He has dedicated his political career to fighting against human rights violations in Turkey, particularly in relation to torture. And we're happy to hear from Mr. Gergerlioğlu today.
Türkiye'de o hal döneminde çok büyük hukuksuzluklar yaşandı. 4 yıldır devam eden o hal Türkiye'de inanılmaz hukuk dışı, demokrasi dışı uygulamalara yol açtı. Darbe girişimi sonrası yüz binlerce insan işinden ihraç edildi. Haksız, hukuksuz uygulamalarla televizyonlar, gazeteler, dergiler kapatıldı. Türkiye daha da kötü bir demokrasi ve hukuk grafiğine ulaştı ve dünyada Afrika Ligi'ne düştü. Bunun sonucunda Türkiye'de tamamen otoriter bir sistem oluştu. Cumhurbaşkanı Recep Tayyip Erdoğan tek adam zihniyetiyle ülkeyi yönetmeye başladı ve yaptıklarından da kimse sorgu sual edememeye başladı. Sonuçta ne oldu? Yargı yürütmenin boyunduruğu altına girdi, yasama işlevsiz bir yer haline geldi ve Erdoğan'ın her geçen gün artan tek adamlığı ortaya çıktı. Bunun sonucunda o hal KHK mağdurlarına her türlü hukuksuzluğu yapmaya başladı. Adil olmayan yargılamalarla yüz binlerce insan işinden ihraç edildikten sonra cezaevlerine dolduruldu. Gözaltı merkezlerinde ve cezaevlerinde işkence, kötü muamele çok yaygın bir hal aldı ve çok daha kötüsü insanlar kaçırılmaya başlandı. Güpegündüz sokak ortasında insanlar kaçırıldı. 1990'lı yılların Türkiye'sine dönüldü ve insanlar aylarca kaçırıldıktan sonra emniyet müdürlüklerinde ortaya çıktılar ve bunların büyük bir kısmı kaçırıldıkları dönem içinde devlet görevlileri tarafından işkenceye uğradıklarını söylediler. Evet, işkence Türkiye'de maalesef herkese yönelik artan bir devlet şiddeti haline aldı ve sorgulanamaz bir durumda. İşkence yapanlar cezasızlık kılıfına bürünmüş durumda ve barolar bile bu işkenceleri ispatlayıp raporladığı halde işkencecilere hiçbir şeyin yapılmadığı, çocukların cezaevlerinde olduğu, biliyorsunuz en az 800 çocuk şu anda cezaevlerinde, kadınların, çocukların cezaevlerinde olduğu korkunç, karanlık bir Türkiye gerçeğini görüyoruz. Bütün bunlar için, demokrasi ve hukuk için hepimiz sürekli mücadele etmeye devam etmeliyiz.
So Turkey has detained, prosecuted, and convicted thousands of civil servants, lawyers, politicians, activists, teachers, and journalists for alleged links to terrorism. The imprisonment of women has increased 470% in Turkey since 2005, and the conditions in the prisons in Turkey are overcrowded, and inmates are denied basic human rights, including access to medical treatment. With a capacity in the country of 211,000 prisoners, people are in tight quarters with a total of 260,000 prisoners in the country as of 2018. And this figure is up from 171,000 in 2015. In fact, recently, Gergerlioğlu reported on Twitter that 54 people were incarcerated in a ward for 16 people. So one can only imagine the type of overcrowding and what that means for the health and well-being of people, even more so now with COVID-19. So we're now going to shift our attention to Halim Gülsu, who was a successful teacher in Turkey. And after the attempted coup in 2016, her life fell apart and she passed away within the prisons in April 27, 2018. Up next, we're going to have Zeynep Gülsu and Irfan, her mother and her brother, here to share her story with us today.
Liseyi bitirdiği gün, kan aldığı gün hasta oldu. Doktora götürdük, lupus teşhisi koydular. 3 sene lupus tedavisi gördüm Mersin'de. Şey olmadı, çok tedavi olamadı. Okulu bitirdi. Okulu bitirdikten sonra ders vermeye başladı. Ondan sonra bu şeyler başladı, okullar kapanmaya, olaylar başladı. Olaylar başlayınca, okulu kapatınca bu da şeye gidemez oldu yani. Öğretmenlik yapıyordu, yapamaz oldu. Mersin'de de mağdurlara yardım ediydi. Suçu bu yani.
Annem tutuklanma haberini kendisine verdiğimizde eyvah dedi, o hapishaneden çıkamaz dedi. Çünkü hastalığının hassasiyetini biliyordu.
Hapiste tedavi nasıl olacak? Tedaviyi göremedi. Bakım olmadığından ben de her zaman soruydum. İyi falan değillerdi. 28 Nisan'da öldü diye haber geldi. Yıkıldım tabii. Hala da acısını unutamayayım. 2,5 yıl oluyor neredeyse. Aradılar, kardeşim çıktı. Bacım dedi, başın sağ olsun dedi. Ben yıkıldım tabii. Sağ ol, Allah razı olsun kardeşim dedi. Bana yapanlar benden 5 beter olsun dedi. Ne diyeyim başka? Evlat acısı çok zor. Eşim öldü, evim yıkılmadı. Ama kız ölünce evim yıkıldı.
insanları profesyonel şekilde hapishanelerde sağlık hizmetleri kısıtlanarak, vaktinde müdahale etmeyerek öldürüyorlar. Bu çok açık, net bir gerçeklik. Kaç tane ağır hasta insan hapishanelerde adeta can çekişiyor ve bu insanlara en tabii insani yardım, sağlık yardımı, tıbbi tedavi imkanları gerektiği gibi sunulmuyor. Bu mevcut rejimin bir öldürme metodu.
Bir de onun şehit olduğuna inanayım ben. Ondan dolayı dayanayım. Yoksa evlat acısına dayanılmaz. Çok zor evlat acısı. Kimseye de göstermesin Rabbim.
So we're very excited now to welcome Garry Kasparov to the broadcast. Born in Baku, Azerbaijan, in the former Soviet Union in 1963, Garry was the under-18 chess champion at the age of 12 and the world under-20 chess champion when he was 17. At the age of 22, he became the youngest world chess champion in 1985, and he won a series of matches against the famous Anatoly Karpov. His matches against Deep Blue, the IBM supercomputer, attracted attention around the globe. And as the head of US-based Kasparov Chess Foundation, he travels extensively to promote the teaching of chess in schools around the world. He described his matches against Deep Blue in a book titled Deep Thinking, Where Machine Intelligence Ends and Human Creativity Begins. He has championed human rights throughout his life and was named the head of the Human Rights Foundation, a New York-based pro-democracy human rights organization. He gives talks on different occasions as part of his mission around human rights, and the foundation organizes the Oslo Freedom Forum, promoting peace, prosperity, and freedom. Welcome, Garry, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me.
So as you know, we're talking about the complex human rights violations and situations in Turkey today. And I guess my question to start us off is, from your perspective, Garry, how has this oppression in Turkey been allowed to happen and to continue? What do you make of this situation?
It's quite a dire situation, and I have to say that 20 years ago I had big expectations for Turkey, as many of my friends in your country, because we all thought that Turkey was on the way to European Union, just to become a very strong secular democracy. And I had big expectations also to see Turkey as the first non-Christian nation to be part of EU and to refute the false assumption that democracy is it needs Christianity to thrive. It didn't happen, and we saw the reverse. Turkey was coming back in ages. Unfortunately, it followed up for my country, Russia. And I have to say that Putin's success in turning Russia back from its democratic path convinced Erdogan that he could do something similar. It was very tough time, the first 20 years of this century for democracy worldwide, and the disastrous development in Turkey alongside with Russia, they contributed greatly to the setbacks that democracy has been suffering around the globe. I'm not calling myself an expert on Turkish politics, but it seems to me that there are so many similarities that I can easily call many things Erdogan has been doing, because I saw them happening in Russia. And it's not just one country that suffers from autocratic rule of a would-be dictator, but it's an effect on the whole region, because Turkey is a major regional power. I would say even not just regional power, because the Turkish-speaking nations stretching all the way to China, and I think that's the fact is that Turkey is no longer interested in protecting democracy among Turkish-speaking people, it's probably helped Chinese Communist government to start genocides of Uyghurs, for instance. Yeah, it's it's almost tragic, and I hope that eventually the Turkish society will find its strengths and will bring country back to its normal historical path.
Yeah, that's an interesting point about finding strength in Turkey right now, and it seems like all odds are against the people in rising in Turkey and having their voices heard. I'm curious, Gary, like what are your greatest concerns about the situation there, and how does that ripple out and affect the rest of us?
Look, when you have dictators dominating in a certain region, and we could see that now the Middle East region, it's an arena of different dictators fighting for the spheres of influence, and the way they fight, makes ordinary people suffer because they don't care about human lives. And if Turkey were democratic, we could expect, some better arrangements in Syria, for instance. But instead, we have Erdogan, we have Iranian mullahs, we have Putin, we have don't want to mention Bashar al-Assad. We have all these terrorist groups there, and all they just they have been doing is playing these games. And as a result, we could see that hundreds of thousands of people have been killed, many millions now forced into exile, and it's endless hell. Nobody sees any exit strategy there, and a few American soldiers here and there, they cannot change the outcome. Turkey could have played a major positive role, but instead it's building its policy in the region just to satisfy Erdogan's magnanimous ambitions.
Mm-hmm. And I'm curious, one of the things that's made me very curious about the situation in Turkey too has been the targeting of the Gulen and the Hizmet movement. And do you see any rationale? Why is that? Why are they becoming the target? Because any thoughts do you have on that one?
Look, no, it's the dictators or would-be dictators. Yeah. They do not tolerate any alternative, not even center of power, any alternative center of influence.
Right.
If you have any influential group, whether it's the religious, whether it's secular, whether it's it's even scientific, any group, especially with a leader that has a certain authority and exercise its authority to spread its influence, it's a target. It's an immediate target. If you want to be independent with your religious or spiritual views, or with any dissenting views in a country like Turkey today or Russia today, you have target on your back. As the chairman of the Human Rights Foundation, I'm regularly communicating with people from different places, and Turkey is now not a happy place, but we all know that there are places that are suffering much greater these days, but countries like Turkey, they could actually change the overall balance. So that's why I will be following as always the fight against Erdogan dictatorship, and whatever Human Rights Foundation as an organization or myself can offer to those who are fighting for freedom in Turkey. So I'm always at your service.
Awesome. Gary, thank you so much for taking the time and sharing in your work around human rights with the Human Rights Foundation and beyond. It was really a great pleasure to meet you, and thanks for sharing your thoughts today.
Yes. Okay. Good luck. Thank you very much.
Take care. Thank you. So to hear more about the condition and state of prisons and rights of women in Turkey, next in our journey today, we'll hear from Rahime Yildiz. Rahime is married with a daughter, and before the coup, she worked as a teacher for 4 years. And at the time of the coup, she was pregnant and gave birth 19 days following. A month and a half later, she was fired from her job, and a week later, she was detained with her child. And 2 days following, she was arrested despite having this 1-month-old at her breast. And she was detained for 11 months and 11 days in jail. Within this first month, her child became quite sick and they were isolated and their health continued to deteriorate. With the judge ruling her to a prison sentence of 6 years and 3 months, Rahime was able to flee Turkey, thankfully, and find refuge in Belgium, where she speaks to us today.
I was 8 months pregnant when the coup happened. One day the police came and I was accused of being a member of terrorist group. Then I was detained 2 days. I told the judge I had a baby just 1 month old, and also it's breastfeeding baby. He said, yeah, okay, I take into consideration your status, but still I was arrested and I was taken to the prison. When I was first taken to the prison, I felt myself so disappointed because I thought I never deserved this, because how can it be possible for a pregnant woman to join a coup or do bad things? Yeah, it's nonsense and it's not fair. I cannot understand and I cannot accept this. When I saw my baby on the lap of the official, I cannot stop crying. But later I thought I'm a mom and I should be strong. It's so crowded. The place we stay, it's just 26 people, but we had to stay there more than 60 people, and sometimes it rise up 77 people together with children. After 2 months, my baby got sick. Officials was taken to us sick room. It's a kind of locked room. We had to stay there about 5 months. After that decision, we have decided to run away the country because it threats our freedom, and there is no justice in Turkey. Right now, we live in a country in Europe. We got our residence permit and we all learn a new language and try to start a new life here. I hope justice comes in Turkey as soon as possible, because there are lots of innocent people in the prison.
So joining us next to share their experience in Turkey, we have Mesut and Meral Kaçmaz. Both Mesut and Meral have their master's degree in education and 2 decades of experience in education internationally. Their family was kidnapped on September 27, 2017 from Pakistan to Turkey, and from what I understand was a collaboration of Inter-Services of Intelligence of Pakistan and MIT, the Turkish intelligence service. They were jailed for 9 months and released, and Meral also was held in solitary confinement for 7 months. Hello, Mesut and Meral. Thank you for joining the broadcast today, and it sounds like you've been through a pretty harrowing experience. I was wondering if you can maybe tell me a little bit more about what happened in Pakistan and that experience that you went through.
Yeah. First of all, we were educationists in Pakistan, and everything was going smoothly till 15 July 2016. Coup attempt in Turkey, and then things changed and up and down in Pakistan. Unfortunately, I was as a director of public relations at public schools and colleges, and things changed after the coup attempt. So our visa have been expired September 2016, and by the Minister of Interior, we have been promised to extend the visa because there was no any problem. But in November 2017, Erdogan was planning to visit Pakistan. Just before visiting of Pakistan, Erdogan visit to Pakistan, 14 November 2017, we have received a letter from the Minister of Interior that they were not able to extend our visa without any reason. And we have received second letter, 16 November 2017. They have given order to leave the country within 72 hours. All Turkish families were supposed to leave within 3 days, 72 hours, immediately, without any reason. So we have rushed to United Nations to get protection certificate that we got 24th November 2017. And then we have been given a year to stay, to remain as official in Pakistan. And 27th of March 2017, again, Lahore High Court has extended to stay in Pakistan for a year regarding the protection certificate of United Nations. Mm-hmm. And of course, we have learned later that we were under surveillance of Pakistan intelligence almost 28 times, September 2016 till September 2017, within a year, 28 times intelligence service from Pakistan, FIR, as well ISI, other intelligence service as well that I have forgotten their names, continues to, they were visiting my house. So we were so much afraid what will happen, this situation as well. But unfortunately, 27th of September 2017, 15 to 20 group of people in plain clothes. They said that they are coming from CTT terror department, and they are going to take us to safe house with the long arm, 15 to 20. It was about 1:30 a.m. in the morning. We were in a sleep, but my wife was awake at the time. They have attacked us. They have beaten and tortured. They have not shown any legal paper, any warrant, any ID regarding due to our request, just to show us there is no problem. We are going to collaborate and we are going to come. But unfortunately, they didn't do that. And then we have been kept in detention, as detention I'm telling, for 17 days in unknown location. And we have learned that when we reached over there, the location, it was saying that there are some menus in the place where we stayed. Amir Şahit Mess, it was written. It was the army places, later we found out. And then we have been forcibly again sent to special business class jets in Lahore. It was in the Allama Iqbal International Airport. There was an army airport as well, just next to it. Forcibly, they have taken us to the, unfortunately, jet. And then we have been taken to Turkey forcibly, tortured, and till landing, I have been tortured a lot by the Turkish intelligence, as well ISI people during detention. And when we reached to Turkey, we separated them. They have separated us. They didn't allow me to speak with my wife as well with my children. And by torturing, by abusing too much, then they have taken me to hospital to get the health report, and they have taken with the police because police were always with me. They didn't allow me to stay with the doctor alone. I have shown, but she didn't do anything. So they have issued the full healthy report, and then I was detained for 3 days, and I was forced to sign the fake testimony. Otherwise, they are going to rape to my wife and my kids, my daughters, in front of my eyes. Even in the plane, unfortunately, they have continuously told me that they are going to do the same thing in the plane as well, in front of my eyes. And they have told me you have only 33 days to leave. That after that we are going to kill you. I said, what is the reason? Reason is that what I know. I have told them what is the reason. What's my guilt? What's my crime? And they were not able to say anything. And then I was arrested and then sent to the Silivri jail. And I was stayed over there for 9 months. And with the United Nations Arbitrary Detention Working Group strong advice to Turkish government to release us, then I have been released. But before me, my wife, thanks God that she was released 26th of April 2018. And then with the United Nations, I was released. Then this is our actually short story, and still our case is going on. As Mesut Kaçmaz, I was educationist and teacher, and right now currently I'm doing as a taxi driver. That's my short story. So my wife may continue.
Yes, please, Meryl.
Actually, he summarized all the story, and what has happened is quite obvious that we were totally kidnapped. We were not being allowed to talk to our lawyer. We were not, although in the Lahore court, it was ordered to keep us in Pakistan. The court himself ordered to the Pakistan authorities to keep us in Pakistan, but they even didn't listen their own court order, and they handed us over to a plane which is landed to Lahore in a midnight, and it was so you cannot imagine. You don't know where you will be taken, because in Pakistan it is quite popular to kidnap people for ransom, or to hand over to some intelligence services, or to hand over to the terrorist groups. That's why when we were held 17 days, we don't know what is going to happen us. We don't know if we will be handed over to a terrorist group to get killed, or we will be handed over. We don't know what might happen, because in Pakistan they were refusing to make us meet any lawyer. They didn't give us any of our legal rights. Even in Turkey, I mean, we were being moved from one court to another court, because it is totally against the rule and regulation. You cannot just kidnap some people abroad and bring to the country and then judge them in the court. Actually, they have no right for that. So, but unfortunately, we were being sentenced to the 6 years and 3 months jail time in the court. And yes, we are now released, but if it is being approved by the High Court, we will be again retaken to the jail and spend our years over there. I mean, at least 5-6 years we will spend in the jail. So we are waiting right now for the decision of the High Court. Like in Turkey right now, hundreds of thousands of people are waiting for their, these funny crimes, because they are not criminals. They just deposited money to a bank which is opened by the government, or they were just members of a syndicate which was approved by the government, or they have sent their kids to the schools which was again approved by the government, and then everything was legal, but out of a sudden we turned to criminals in the eyes of our government, and they announced us as terrorists because we were not supporting them, and right now we are trying to survive.
Well, and you as educators, one of the most important critical pieces in society, teachers, is so important. And I think as I've been learning more about this, I've really struggled with understanding why they've targeted certain groups of people. And it's almost like as things are getting caught up in the court system in Turkey, it's like everybody's held captive in some ways. And so your case is still kind of ongoing. How are you two? How has it impacted your life?
We don't have, actually, they have stolen our lives, because you cannot apply a job. When you apply any job, they know that you are being sentenced. So nobody is ready to give you any job. And even your neighbors, because they know that if they greet you or if they are close to you, they can anytime be arrested, or they can be again, they have to pass through the same pathway which you pass through. They know you are innocent. And then they try to call you secretly, or they try to meet you in the midnight, or they, I have almost 11 cousins, and I was able to talk to only one of them after I was released from jail. And since 2 years, just one of them has enough courage to talk to me. So this is, even your relatives, they know you have done nothing wrong, but they cannot even talk to you. So you are totally abandoned, and then you are isolated in the society. And you cannot even meet with the people which pass through the same tragedy like you, because then you are again, they say that you are reinstalling terrorist group, and then they don't even allow you to meet with each other. Mm-hmm. And if you try to help the families of your prison friends, because some of our friends are still in prison, when you try to help their families, when you give food, only when you give food, you are again being labeled by the terrorism, and again you pass through the same phases. So people who are helping each other nowadays in Turkey, they take the responsibility, they take the risk to go through the same systematic same system again, and that's why people are just scared. We are scared.
I want to share my experience when I came to Silivri prison, and then I entered the room, and the friends over there, they have told me, Mr. Mesut, welcome, how are you? I said, I was shocked. How do you know me? And I have seen all pro-government media TV channels. I have seen my news over there as international terrorists. Yes, international. And the next coming days, not only one day, every day with the different printing media, I have seen my news, my wife news as well, as international terrorist. And when I was released in my city, I had some very close friends, very, very close. And once visited with my wife, just wanted to visit them. And we have gone to their next door, and we have been rejected to see them, because they were afraid if someone saw, and they could be also arrested due to our visit. We said that, okay, no problem, these are our friends, but I think this is the time to stay at home and not to meet and not to put the other lives in dangers. This is situation and allegation about Mr. Mesut. What was the allegation or accusation by the court? It is very simple: depositing money, legal bank. Okay, but it was wrong. And also in the first case hearing, the prosecutor asked the judge why he has made a mistake about written of allegation, because I didn't deposit the bank due to order of someone. So I was just saving my money and just depositing the bank. They have seen these details over there, and prosecutor was angry with the judge at that time. Sorry, prosecutor. Judge was angry with the prosecutor. And the other allegation, I have met with telephonic conversation with 3 persons. One of them was the very close friend of Erdogan, very close, as Erdogan's son called him as an uncle. So I have spoken with him. There is no details, madam. There is nothing, only date and the time, that's all. I said, okay, what did I discuss with them? It is not our case. They said, I mean, the judge said that it is not our case, but you have spoken with those people. I said, okay, but this is the friend or close friend of Erdogan. So how could you do that? This is the second allegation. And the third allegation about helping people, madam. Helping people right now is crime. It is in my file. It was written. And the fourth allegation is toward after schools and colleges. And I want to mention that ex-embassy of Turkey, Sadık Babur Girgin, has labeled us, and he has prepared report about me and about my wife. I have seen in the police station and written many things. You can give accusation about anybody, but you have to prove it. If there is any guilt or if there is any crime, you have to prove it. If you're not able to prove, you cannot do anything. I asked in the first case here, I asked the prosecutor, if you could please prove it. He said that he doesn't have to prove it. I have to prove that I am not innocent. I was kidnapped, tortured, and forced to fake testimony to save my family members. And then I was arrested. Then I was a person like others, not only me, I was the one person who was supposed to prove and give the evidence that I am not innocent in the jail with the limitation. This is actually what I want to share also, that issue.
But we are still lucky, because many people get lost, and then many people get lost in the custody, and then still their families are waiting for their relatives. So we were, maybe because our case was quite popular and United Nations was involved, we didn't get lost, and then we still alive, and we were still, we have to be thankful to God, But, something else hurt me so much. Okay, suppose that we are criminals. Suppose that we were really terrorists. Suppose that. But they didn't allow our kids to study. They said that the school which they studied was the school which we were running in Pakistan. And they imagine the Pakistani students who came from same school, they were able to study in Turkey, but they didn't allow my kids to study in Turkey. And then she was a very successful child. It was their dream to study in their own country, but they had to leave Turkey to be able to study. It was what hurt me most, actually. They didn't allow, they destroyed the dreams of young teenagers, but they didn't lose much, actually. They went to a very good country, and then they even get scholarship from in these countries, and then they are very well settled right now. But what they did will not be forgotten.
So Meryl, I was wondering, you had a pretty unique experience being in solitary confinement and also being in prison, and I'm wondering if you could share a little bit more about that experience, like what you were feeling and how you were even coping as a mother in that situation.
Actually, Rene, when I was put into solitary confinement, I was made believe that I will stay rest of my life in that cell. Because during when they tried to take my testimony, they almost brainwashed me that to make me believe that for a lifetime I will stay in that cell. That's why when I entered in that cell, and then they said that whether you will stay lifetime in that cell or you will accept that you were a terrorist and your friends were terrorists. And I was, I wanted to die. I said that, how can I call myself and my friends? Because I worked too hard for the peace and I worked too hard for my students, and I'm not a terrorist. And then I said that finally, but I was too weak, because 1 month when you don't see sunlight and when you don't get proper food, and for 1 month when you are continuously forced to give testimony, and you are losing your conscience, you are losing your control. And I was almost about to accept that what they want me to sign. But finally I said that, how will I look at the mirror anymore? How can I feel myself as a human anymore. And I said that, I said to them as well, I said that in one court or in the second court or in the third court, in another court, somewhere they will approve that I'm innocent. But if I call my friends terrorists, I will deny all my past, and I will not be able to look at the mirror anymore. And I said that I wish I could lie. I wish I could do what you want me to do, but I can't. I can't just delete all my past and look at my friend's face with this lie. And I said that I cannot lie to you. And then they put me in that jail, in that cell, the first day, because I have seen a little sunlight through the window, and because I found a bed. Because when you were in under custody, you are not given bed. You have to sleep on the wood. So that's why, because I found bed, first day I just slept. But the third day, you start to think where you are. You are in a little cell, you have nothing, and then you will never be able to part of in their children's lives. Because I still believe that I will stay there forever. And then I started to think that I will not be there when you finish university. I will not be there when they get married. I will not be there to hold my grandchildren. And then you think that whole your life will go. You will stay over there. And I couldn't bear. And in the fourth day, I remember in the cell, I made it up. How can I end my life? And you see you try to manage how can you end up your life over there. And a human being is quite clever. Everywhere you can find a way to end your life. And I was crying terribly, and then I was not in a good shape. But thanks God, other prisoners, they called me towards the window of the cell. And they tried to consultate me. They tried to tell me that you are innocent. If you believe you are innocent, you will be strong. No test will be forever. You will one day get released. You will meet with your kids again. And then try to give me some courage to breathe. And then I came to myself. I said that, come on, I have to be strong. There is no way other than being strong over there, and you have to hang up. And I started to read. I started to read every day one book. I was able to access books, thanks God. And I started to read lots of books. And it was an experience. It was a quite experience, because losing everything at a time. I have lost my kids, my home, my life, in the country which I get used to, everything. But I was just worried about my kids, because they have lost more than we lost. They have lost their school, they have lost their friends, which are very important for them. They have lost their pets. When we were under custody in Pakistan, they continuously repeated that whether we had a water turtle, whether if somebody found it and feed it, what if he dies? What if the pet dies? And then when we were under custody in Pakistan, they didn't give my daughter's eyeglasses. And his number is too high. And when we were eating something, she wasn't able to finish the food on her plate, because she wasn't able to see the food on the plate properly. And then first time in my life, I have wiped the blood from my children's body. And first time because during the kidnapping, their clothes were torn, and then they were pulled on the ground, and then their body was, they were bleeding. So I had to clean up their blood, and I have to clean up the earth which was on their body. And then, yes, we went through some experience, very, very bad experience. And I wish, but when I was in the cell, I was still thankful to God. I said that, thanks God, not my other friends faced to this. Thanks God, I was the one who faced this. Because if I think that one of my friend was in place of me over there, I would really, it would be much more devastating actually. So yes.
Well, you sound like you've had such a great, strong spirit behind you to help you drive through that. And I think what's interesting about that too is you've elevated your case to levels that people are watching you, and you have such resilience. And I just, my heart goes out to you both, and your children. I hope that everything goes good from here.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And
thank you so much for that.
So most media, including television, conforms to the political line in Turkey. In the aftermath of the failed coup, the government closed down 200 media outlets, including 53 newspapers, 37 radio stations, 34 TV channels, 29 publishing houses, 20 magazines, and 6 news agencies. All of these with accused links to the Gulen movement, Kurdish opposition, or leftist groups. And consequently, a total of 2,308 media workers and journalists have lost their jobs. The government has canceled hundreds of press accreditations, revoked passports of an unknown number of journalists and their family members to ban them from traveling abroad. And in addition, the government imprisoned a record-breaking number of journalists in wake of the coup attempt. The Platform for Independent Journalism reported that at least 126 journalists and media workers were in prison in Turkey as of October 2019. Many of those in long-term solitary confinement. The absence of freedom of expression is not only a recurring problem for journalists, but also for citizens as well. In 2018, the Ministry of Interior reported that more than 7,000 individuals were detained for their social media posts. Wikipedia has been blocked in Turkey since April of 2017. And currently, out of 180 countries, Turkey ranks 157th on the Press Freedom Index of Reporters Without Borders. So our next guest, Abdülhamit Balici, is a Turkish journalist and media executive. Balici was one of the most prominent and influential media figures in Turkey, and as the last editor-in-chief of Zaman, the country's most widely circulated newspaper, and CEO of Fesa Publications. Balici's newspapers were taken over by the government with a raid on March 5th, 2016, and the Fesa Media Group was shut down after the July 15th failed coup attempt. Balici was forced into exile under the threat of an arrest warrant, and we're very honored to have Mr. Balici here with us today.
Thank you. Very nice to meet you. It is a very kind introduction, more than necessary.
Well,
Thank you.
Sounds like you've had a pretty fascinating journey. I was wondering, would you mind kind of telling us or sharing a little bit more about your experience of what happened, and then maybe we could talk a little bit more about.
I'm a journalist for over 25 years. So I did not study journalism. I studied political science and international relations at one of the top universities of my country, Turkey. And I joined just after graduating to journalism as a very different career that I did not imagine before. But it attracted me a lot. I started as a reporter and learned the job in the job. I mean, how much I don't know I learned, but I tried to learn. And after 20 years, I came to the position of the highest position of these media companies. One was the news agency, Cihan, as you said in the introduction, and the other was Zaman Daily, which was the largest circulated daily in Turkey. Everything was fine. We were very successful, although we were a young media group in Turkey, which was started in mid-80s. So we don't have a huge history like BBC or New York Times. But it became very successful with some basic principles. So, for instance, one of the efforts that we were, the newspaper, the founders of this media was trying to help, was to fight against fake news. So this fake news is not the fake news that you hear in this debate started by Mr. Trump. This is real fake news. I mean, the stories that are made up. So this was one of the efforts that made this media, our media, very attractive to people. And the other thing was to support democracy in Turkey. When you think of Turkey, it is a country that has been categorized as a democracy with multi-party system after the 50s, 1950s. So we don't have a huge tradition of democracy. Before that, we had one-party system, and then before that, we had an empire. So, but this democratic tradition was interrupted 5 times in last 60 years with military coups. So the newspaper and the founders were put a big priority to bring Turkey into a real democracy. So for that, it brings me to the other principle that was very important for the media, to join European Union. So Turkey applied to join European Union in 1980s, and it was a desire to be a full-fledged democracy and to be part of the European economy, of course, the European health system, everything. So the newspaper, we were supporting that idea very much because it would bring the East and West together, Muslim world and the Christian world together. So it would have very positive impact. And of course, the newspaper was supporting, other than doing good journalism, quality journalism, trying to support building bridges between different parts of Turkish society. There may be leftists, liberals, conservatives. In a normal day in my newspaper, you could see a conservative columnist, a Kurdish columnist, a liberal columnist writing on the same issue from their different perspectives. So it was a kind of like of a garden of ideas. And we were very much happy with all those things. And when the ruling party was established in 2002, they promised that they will make Turkey a better democracy, and they will support Turkey joining European Union, and they were supporting dialogue between cultures and the faiths, let's say, and that made us very identical in terms of political orientation. So we supported all these policies as they were supported by all Democrats in Europe and in America, in Canada. So the Erdogan was supported very much in his first 8-10 years because he was doing right things for the country, for democracy, for economy, for people. And we were supporting them. I had very good relations with the president, with the prime minister at that time. I was flying on their jets to national, domestic, or international meetings. So I was interviewing them. They were visiting our paper, etc. So we had such good relations. But after 2013, things started to change. And the first sign came with the Gezi protest, which took place in the June or the end of May 2013. And when Turkey, and at the time when Turkey was rising as a democracy, it was a star of a model Muslim democracy. And the whole world was very much excited to see that Turkey transforming into a better democracy as a Muslim country. Maybe it could be a good exception. So, I mean, in contrast to all these expectations, the government crashed protesters who were asking not to demolish a green park and a park and found and establish, construct a shopping mall on top of it. So this was a little issue, but turned into big because the government did not act as it was expected from any democratic government. Instead of listening to those protesters and the young people to try to respond to their accusations or demands, they crashed it. Some people lost their lives. And there was a very interesting event at the time that the CNN International, BBC, and whole international media was covering those protests, the Turkish media, like the CNN affiliated CNN Turk, was broadcasting a penguin documentary. This was ridiculous, of course, but because they do it, it is journalism, but it is because of fear. So the Erdogan made some phone calls not to show those protests. He was trying to contain them. So this was the beginning of a new era for Turkey. We are talking about 2013, 7 years ago. And lots of journalists were purged and fired from their jobs who continued to be critical of these harsh measures against democratic people, against people using their democratic rights. So people lost their jobs in the media, and we started to feel that this is another AKP, another Erdogan. So at the end of the same year, there has been a corruption investigation which revealed that the Erdogan's family and his ministers involved in a scheme that involved getting bribes in return to helping a Turkish-American businessman to help Iran to sell its oil to international markets, because Iran was under sanctions. So Turkey was giving that service to Iran, Turkish government, and in return they were being paid bribes to shut their eyes or to use Turkish banks and Turkish bureaucratic mechanisms to hide that international sanction evasion act, which is illegal domestically and internationally. So when we covered that story, when we published about the corruption allegations, and we were critical of this new orientation of one-man rule or authoritarianism, autocracy, then we became the enemy of the Erdogan and his government. They canceled our press cards. They called people boycott our newspaper, not to buy the newspaper. Our subscribers who were closer to Erdogan's political line, they canceled their subscriptions. So we were getting more visitors from tax inspection division of the government. A lot of things. So even Erdogan was calling some business people not to purchase advertisement from our company. And of course, there are lots of court cases against our reporters, our institution. So all of them was to silence us or to make us a mouthpiece or a puppet of government. And we resisted that pressure, and it continued until 2016. 3 years. So 3 years of a harsh struggle, a government defining you as enemy and then doing everything possible at their disposal. And then we were trying to survive under economic pressures, the judicial pressures, death threats, etc. So we did not change our political orientation. And I am very proud of that, meanwhile. And in March 2016, with a kangaroo court decision, they said they are appointing trustees to the board of our company.
Wow.
And they came with a brutal police force. They occupied our headquarters in Istanbul, and they kicked us out, the editors. I was the CEO of the company that had a news agency, the most popular newspaper, an English daily newspaper, a lot of media outlets that we were managing. I was trying to manage. So in 24 hours, they hired another mouthpiece journalist, and then they changed the newspaper into a government-oriented paper. And our readers protested. The newspaper circulation was 700,000 before they occupied our newspaper, and it dropped to 5,000. So in 1 week. So this was a very big failure, and it's a very dark day for our democracy, for our country. But this turned to be a routine for the Erdogan government. And before us, they shut down 16 channels of the Samanyolu Media Group. Before that, they shut down Bugün Media Group in 2015. Maybe some couple of months before they shut down our newspaper. So they appointed their trustees to the board, and they hired, as I said, another editor. And the newspaper changed 180 degrees in terms of its policies and its editorial approach. But this did not satisfy Erdogan. So for 4 months, 5 months, they continued like that. But when coup happened, when this notorious coup attempt happened in July 15, 2016, same year, they shut down the newspaper altogether, and 200 more TV channels, news agencies, radio stations, and from different backgrounds. I mean, leftist, liberals, Kurdish, whoever has been critical were silenced indeed in the aftermath of the coup attempt. And they raided my home to arrest me on 23rd of July, just maybe 10 days after the coup. But I already left the country in the beginning of April this year, April 2016. So luckily I was not there, I was not arrested. But a lot of my friends whom I was working for years were arrested. Some of them are still in jail for 4 years now. Some of them got life sentences, including our chief designer. You know, a designer has nothing to do with politics if it is a political dispute. So he was our designer, a very talented artist indeed. But they jailed him. They gave him a life sentence. And he's then in the appeal process, they reduced it to 10 years. Now he's in solitary confinement. This is just one of the 120 journalists in jail. So I have columnists, young reporters. I have, for instance, a reporter who is in jail who started the job 2 years ago. So I was a talented journalist, but for nonsense reasons, they are in jail. And some of them finished their terms of punishment, but they are not released. So this is unfortunately a Turkey, a government that we were supporting,
yeah,
but turned into something just opposite. And my orientation, my perspective about Turkey is same. I did not change. My newspaper did not change. The government changed, and then they started to create not a democracy but an autocracy. Mm-hmm. And it was impossible for me to support such a horrible change, and it is destroying country now.
I mean, the value of the press, I think, is something that most people maybe take for granted, especially here in the West, and the importance of press freedom. It sounds like this real shift from, this great relationship to really a propaganda, a really intentional propaganda and really intentional silencing. What are your hopes for moving forward? Like, what in terms of the press freedom and even media in Turkey, are there possibilities? Are there lights, or do you see any hope or ways that we can shift this?
We cannot live without hope.
Yes.
We cannot survive without hope. So I am hopeful. I keep my hope, but my optimism, decreases every day. So I try to look at the positive signs. So what are the positive signs? Turkey doesn't have natural gas or oil that will finance a dictatorship like Iran is doing or like Russia is doing. So, and Turkey is very much integrated with the world, especially with the European economies. Half of Turkey's trade is with Europe, and it is very essential part of Turkish well-being. And Turkey has a history of 200 years of modernization, westernization. which transformed Turkey in a very great extent. And of course, Turkey, when I look at the political dynamics, I see that support to Erdogan is not increasing because of the, economic problems rising, his popularity declining. But he is now able to control all state institutions like the army, police, judiciary, media, parliament, everything. Because of that, he is able to survive. And he is a very smart politician in terms of building new alliances, even with his worst enemies. Yes. So he survives, but his popularity is not rising. And in the last year local elections, his party lost Ankara, the capital, and Istanbul, which is the biggest city in Turkey. And Erdogan is having tough times to convince people that what he is doing in terms of building a one-man rule. So he's not able to sell it, but the problem is he controls the state now. So when someone controls the state, it's not easy to fight, to struggle against your state, you know. So the police, the judges, and all the institutions turns against you. And since the media is a very crucial part in that, so 95% of media is under his control. So there is 5% or 10% remaining for the opposition to share their perspective about what's going on really in Turkey. So there's a very big struggle. But despite all this, the ruling party lost, as I said, the local elections. And people are not, economy is not doing well. But I don't know. You know, I was talking recently, with a lawyer from Iran, because Turkey is getting very much identical to the Iranian regime. Maybe they are inspired from, you know, when they started, they were inspired from European Union, from European countries, but now they are inspired from Russia, from Iran, and from other authoritarian countries. So they are learning from their practices, you know, and they transform Turkish political system into something like the Iranian or other model. So I talked to this lawyer from Iran who told me that 70% of Iranian people hate the regime, the current regime. And there has been different protests taking place in last couple of years, but the regime is so strong. I mean, when such a sick ideology controls all state institutions, it is very difficult for people to change, even if they do not like it. So I think Turkey came to such a similar point. But despite all these negative and pessimistic scenarios, I think Turkey will not go into a full-fledged dictatorship. This is my hope and my prayer.
Okay. Well, I hope so too. I know that, you know, the compounding of all this, the censorship of the media and all these things, they create this deeper culture of fear within countries, and let's hope that the transition can happen. So, Mr. Bilici, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today from Virginia. It was so lovely to meet you and have you with us.
Thank you. Turkey is a model now how to protect democracies being hijacked by populist leaders. So I urge my colleagues around the world to study, to read more about how Turkey transformed from a model of democracy into an autocracy now in 5-6 years. That's amazing. That is, so terrible story, but there are a lot of lessons to be learned.
Yeah, and it's such an important place in our world. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Nida.
Again. Our next message comes from Mehmet Alidun, born in Elazığ, Turkey. Mehmet completed his PhD in mechanical engineering at SUNY Buffalo in the United States. But Mehmet had served as a faculty for a state and foundation university in Turkey. He was a founding chair of the mechanical engineering department and later dean of the engineering and architecture school at Meliksa University, which was shut down by state decree right after the coup attempt in July 15, 2016. Mehmet is an accomplished and dedicated professional with extensive experience in teaching, research, and academic administration. And he's currently serving in the United States as a faculty member at a university and is married with a father of four. So we'll just pass the stage over to Mehmet to share his experience.
I had completed my doctorate degree in the 90s in the US and gone back to Turkey. I was founder chair of the mechanical engineering department and later dean of the engineering and architecture school. Up to now, about 9,000, including state university faculties, were dismissed from their position by state decrees without any single admin or judicial investigation, without any court trial. I moved to the US with only my backpack without any luggage. In my first days in the US, I was not able to work and earn money since I didn't have my work permit yet. I started working as an Uber driver right after the day my work permit arrived. I had driven a total of some more than 90,000 miles because of settling, commuting to work, and Uber trips. It was mid-April. I went to the hospital with breathing difficulties and was diagnosed with blood clotting. It is really hard to imagine the magnitude of this destruction. Many essential human values, cultural values, religious values of the society were trampled up. Thousands of innocent people, including babies, women, elderly people are in jail. This cannot be justified with any good reason in terms of human values. I never did anything illegal throughout my life, and I'm not a criminal, I'm not a terrorist, and I'm not a traitor.
So with us now we have Dr. Umut Duygu Uzunel, who was born in Ankara, Turkey in 1978. She graduated in medicine in 2000 and then went on to specialize in ophthalmology at Ege University. She's performed more than 10,000 eye surgeries, wow, since 2005 and published 30 national and international research papers. She's traveled throughout Africa many times as a volunteer surgeon and trainer. While her husband was in jail without any kind of proven crime, she came to Canada as a refugee in 2017 to escape the dictatorship regime in Turkey. And her daughters followed 17 months later, and her husband is still in Turkey. Dr. Umut, thank you so much for joining us here today and for being with us. I'm just wondering, could you tell us a little bit more, like, not only how this has impacted you and your family, but what is the status of your husband and what is happening with him?
Actually, he's also a doctor, internal medicine doctor, and He was arrested without having any crime in 2017, September 2016, sorry. And then the police searched for me after my husband. I started to hide from the police for 3-4 months in Turkey, and then I decided to escape from Turkey because there was no right, no justice in Turkey if I enter the jail, because I have muscular dystrophy. I'm a disabled person at the same time, and if I enter the jail, I couldn't go to the washroom, because for me, I need some special things in the washroom in some places, but there is no special things in jails, as you guess. Maybe many can guess this. And after my husband was taken to the jail, he messaged me by my mother-in-law. He told my mother-in-law, I never went to the jail because there was no special conditions I can live. So yeah, it was so. I was shocked at that day. My husband was taken. We were at home, and the police knocked our door while talking, while shouting us like, open the door, something like that. And then it was around 6 a.m., by the way. And we were shocked, and I have 2 daughters. That time they were 8 and 14 years old. And yeah, we were shocked. And then I was actually very shocked, because I took my daughters to the school without saying anything to my husband, because I didn't think they could take my husband. I thought they raided our home and then they would go, but it didn't happen. They took my husband, and yeah, I cannot explain my feelings at that time, actually, because I was shocked. Yeah.
Yeah, and I find it really interesting, considering you're both medical doctors. You play this really important role in your community.
Yes.
What is the logic, do you think, of the crackdown on medical professionals within Turkey? Like, do you see any reasoning for that, or what the rationale could be?
Okay. Actually, there is nothing I can explain about this, because, yeah, for example, for me, my crime, according to a government thing, my crime is to have some relationship with his movements organizations, because I was traveling to Africa with some non-profit organizations that were related to his movement. Yeah, it was my crime to go to Africa with the non-profit organizations as a volunteer doctor.
And how is your husband now? Is he still being detained in jail?
Hopefully, he was released after seven months. He is still in Turkey, but he has banned to travel abroad. So yeah, because he doesn't have any passport, because they don't give passport to him. His court still continue, and yeah.
I can imagine it's very stressful, like, as you know, not having your husband with you, your children,
Yes.
bring with you.
Yeah, actually, around 2 years ago, my daughters came to Canada, and their process was also so hard for us, because at the airport they were interrogated by the police. They are that time 16 and 10 years old, and in the police office without my husband. And my husband was outside, and he had heart attack at the airport. And hopefully he's a doctor, and he felt his things, and he went to the emergency service, and directly he was taken to the angiography, and they placed stent in his vessels, cardiac vessels. So yeah, he had heart attack. We were shocked at that time, because yeah.
Yes, I can imagine. And I know even just that transition to another country and getting settled here, and you're here in Canada with me. So it's very nice to meet you. I just any last thoughts, Doctor, on what's happening in Turkey, and maybe any calls to those of us even here in Canada or the United States about, I don't think it's something that we're aware of what's happening in Turkey. It's very, I think there's so much happening around the world that it's hard to even negotiate all of the things that are going on. But what would be, any final words for people about the situation there and what we need to know and think about?
Actually, I see myself, I'm lucky, because luckier than other victims in Turkey, because I have many friends in Turkey. They are also doctor, also many there were in good positions, like lawyers, many people. For example, for healthcare professionals, more than 20,000 people dismissed from their job, which is huge number for Turkey healthcare system. So yeah, actually I don't know what's happening in Turkey, in the world, I can say also. And there are some bad people in the world, and they give some damage to people. I don't know why. I can't explain in my mind, actually, because the world is enough to all of us.
It's hard to process the rationale behind this. And I think when I hear what you're saying, and the depth of impact on the health system itself is really troubling, especially when we've entered into a global pandemic. So it's also complicated. So thank you so much, Dr. Zanel, for sharing your thoughts.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy speaking with you.
Our pleasure. And my best wishes to you and your family and your husband.
Thank you so much.
Please take care.
Bye.
Mehmet Ali Uludağ, a civil servant of 13 years, lost his job along with his wife without any clear investigation or procedures based on the Emergency Delegated Legislation 677. After being raided by police in their home many times, his wife was detained and he fled the country, followed by his wife and 3 children. His wife passed from cerebral bleeding in April 2018 in Greece, where they had applied for asylum. The rest of the family now is currently living in Germany and are here to share their story with us.
Benim ismim Mehmet Ali Uludağ. Tabii bizim de normal bir hayatımız vardı Türkiye'deyken. 10 yıldan fazla devlet memurluğu yaptım. Rahmetli eşim de devlet memuruydu. Ve ardından da 677 sayılı KYK ile ben ve rahmetli eşim ihraç edildik. Tabii bundan sonra Türkiye'de ne yapabilirdik? Tam bir cadavı vardı Türkiye'de. İnsanlar nefes alamıyordu. Biz de nefes alamıyorduk. Defalarca evimize operasyon yapıldı polis tarafından ağır silahlarla. Azılı bir terörist muamelesi gördük. Dışlandık. Toplumdan bir vebalı gibi davranışlara şahit olduk. Her geçen gün bu hukuksuzluklar arttıkça arttı. İşkenceyle öldürme vakalarına şahit olduk. Arkadaşlarımın birçoğu tutuklandı. Ben de yani en iyi yöntemin artık özgürlük olduğunu düşüncesiyle Türkiye'den çıkma kararı verdim. Tek başıma gidecektim. Ve tek başıma çıktım. Ardından Almanya'ya geldim. Tabii ailem Türkiye'de kalmıştı. Baskılar daha da şiddetlendi onlara yönelik. Tabii beni bulamayınca tabii bu sefer artık eşler onların hedefindeydi. Onlar da dayanamadı ve 3 çocuğuyla beraber eşim çıkmak zorunda kaldı Türkiye'den. Tabii bu süreçte çok yıprandı o da. Sağlıklı bir insandı aslında. Ama bu yorucu ve hak etmediğimiz muamele neticesinde maalesef o da dayanamadı ve beyin kanaması geçirerek vefat etti. Ben de burada bir mağdur olarak bu süreçte bir Gülen hareketine karşı bir zulüm yapılıyor, bir soykırım yapılıyor ve bunun neticesinde de bir müze kurduk arkadaşlarımla beraber. Ve bu müzede süreçte vefat edenler, işkenceyle öldürülen, Meriç'te denizlerle Ege Denizi'nden geçerken boğularak vefat eden insanların eşyalarını sergiliyoruz bu müzemizde. Müzemiz şu anda gezici konsepte. İsmi Tenkil Müzesi ve ileride de umarım sabit bir binada gelecek nesillere unutturmamak için, bir daha böyle acılar yaşanmaması için bu müzemizi sabit hale getirip ibret alınacak dersler olduğu kanısındayız.
And now we have the author of Cell 77, Aslan Demir. Demir penned a book in order to leave a historical record of the victimization that takes place in Turkey. Everything told in Cell 77, which deeply impacts the readers, is true and real life. Come on, let's now give an audience to the facts that Mr. Demir has witnessed.
This book was saying, in 21st century, in a so-called democratic country, people were imprisoned for speaking up their minds, bringing up generations, teaching at schools. Mothers were given birth to their babies in shackles. Babies were raised in prison cells. Babies in prisons. And obviously to the people of free world, this was something they could not imagine. Words remain prosaic to describe the lunacy that is going on right now in Turkish prisons. Cells are overcrowded, cells are cold, no diapers, no proper food, no toys. Toys are prohibited. They killed Gökhan Açıkoğlu, and 2 weeks later, they returned his dead body to his mother with full of bruises and broken bones. They killed Nesrin Genç Osman. They killed Teybet Ana, and for 7 days they kept her dead body in streets of Cizre. People are paying smugglers to help them run away from Turkey. Now, do you think a mother would put her baby in a boat in the water unless the water is safer than the land she belongs? Unless the water is safer than the country she lives in? This book is my way of standing with innocent, standing for them, is my way of walking with these oppressed and innocent people against tyrants.
Thank you so much, Aslan, for sharing that message with us and giving your perspective on what's happening and the issues in Turkey. We're now going to move over to Dr. Bircan Savran, who's a medical doctor from Turkey. He was born in Frankfurt, Germany. And he moved to Turkey when he was 9 years old and graduated from Pamukkale University in 2002. And he became one of the top pediatric surgeons in Turkey and devoted many years of service in Guinea-Bissau. Recently, he's come to the United States with his family to do research at the University of Cincinnati. He has two daughters, 9 and 13 years old, and he's now working as assistant surgeon at Cleveland. So I'd like to welcome Dr. Birkan to share his perspective.
Hello, my name is Birkan. I'm a pediatric surgeon. I was born in Germany. We moved to Turkey when I was 9 years old. I graduated in 6 years from Pamukkale University Medical Faculty. I was a resident for 7 years of pediatric surgery. I became a pediatric surgeon in 2009. I was a famous surgeon in Turkey. I did the first successful surgery for the Martinez-Frias syndrome in the world. The characteristic of this case is that the newborn baby did not have 3 organs: small bowel, gallbladder, and pancreas. I learned that the cops broke into our house in Turkey. They wanted to arrest me because I supported the Hizmet movement. The Turkish government labeled me as a terrorist. I also couldn't attend my mother's funeral ceremony because if I went to go back to Turkey, they would arrest me. How could a person living in America for 7 months join a military coup attempt in Turkey? How could a pediatric surgeon dedicated to save children's lives for 15 years could be a terrorist? All my dreams were ruined. I was stuck with just $60 in my wallet in America. I had to start life again from $60 in the United States. I was a really successful and rich doctor, and suddenly my whole life changed to a disaster. I started to work as a waiter in a restaurant. A few months later, I became an Uber driver. And sometimes I did Amazon Flex. And when I found time, I studied for my test to become a doctor in the United States. I passed some of my exams and finally became an assistant surgeon. We put our life back together. We learned to be happy not because everything was good, but because we saw the good in everything.
So we have many challenging and hard stories today, and we're coming close to the end of our conversation and moving into a really important person, Cemal Yildirim, who was born in 1970 in Ankara. In 1987, he entered the Labor Economics Department University and graduated, and he took part in the academic democratic struggle of the student movement during his student years. Cemal started working in the Ministry of Finance around 1998, and he served in unions and doing much work. But in November 2016, he was fired under the decree number 677. He had actively since then participated in union actions on the street and solidarity actions. And he's done many sittings and walking actions and continues to fight for rights on a daily basis. He has been taken into custody 300 times and fined 64 times. So one cannot underestimate his commitment to justice and freedom. He's one of the true speakers who knows the importance of continued dedication to human rights. I'm looking forward to hearing words from Jamal right now.
Temmuz 2016 tarihindeki darbe girişimi sonrası 20 Temmuz'da ilan ettiği o ay sonrası ülkede ciddi hukuksuzluklarla bizler karşı karşıya kaldık. KYK'larla 120 binin üzerinde insan atıldı. Okullar kapatıldı. Üniversiteler kapatıldı. Gazeteler, dergiler kapatıldı. Ve benim gibi de 120 bin kamu emekçisi işlerinden sorgusuz sualsiz bir şekilde, hukuka aykırı bir şekilde, savunmalarımız dahi alınmadan, nelerle suçlandığımızı dahi bilmeden işlerimizden atıldık. Dönemin Adalet Bakanı suçlu olmasalar bile idari bir tasarrufla onları attık dedi. Yine bir AKP yetkilisi ağaç kabuğu yesinler dedi. Bu süreçte sadece bizleri işimizden atmakla kalmadılar. Herhangi bir işte çalışmamız engellendi. Açıkçası açık bir sivil bir ölüme mahkum edilmeye çalışılıyoruz 4 yıldır. Benim gibi 18 bin kişi hala 4 yıldır OHAL komisyonu karar vermediği için neden dolayı işimizden atıldığımızı bilmiyoruz. Bu 18 bin kişi aynı zamanda şu anda hukuki haklarını da kullanamıyor. Dava da açamıyoruz bizler. OHAL komisyonunun kararını bekliyoruz. Bu süreçte çok ciddi hak ihlalleri oldu. Bu hak ihlallerine ve bizim üzerimizde yaratılan psikolojiye dayanamayan 100'e yakın arkadaşımız intihar etti. Toplamda 538 arkadaşımız çeşitli nedenlerle hayatını kaybetti. Kimisi cezaevinde, kimisi ülkeden kaçarken yaşamını yitirdi. Çünkü bizim pasaportlarımız da iptal edildi. Yurt dışına çıkmamız yasaklandı. Bizim sosyal yardımlara erişimimiz yasaklandı. Sosyal yardımlarımız kesildi. Bizlerin bankaya para yatırması, bankadan para çekmesi yasaklandı. Adımıza gelen paraları almamız engellendi. Bizlerin kendi üzerimizde olan mülkleri satmamız engellendi. Buna benzer 117 çeşit uygulamayla resmen bir soykırıma tabi tutulmaktayız halen. Bununla birlikte bizlerin hak arama mücadelesi önünde birçok engel var. Sesimizi duyuramıyoruz. Sokakta barışçıl toplantı ve gösteri yürüyüş hakkımız idarenin fiili uygulamalarıyla birlikte engelleniyor. Ben yüzlerce defa gözaltına alındım. Barışçıl hak arama talebi gerçekleştirdiğim için hakkımda 10 binlerce liralık para cezası var. Yargılamalar adil olmayan yargılamalar şeklinde devam etmekte. İnsanlar yasal olarak kurulmuş sendika, dernek, banka, dershane gibi şeylere çocuklarını gönderdikleri için ya da kendileri buralarda okudukları için ya da para yatırdıkları için direkt örgüt üyeliğinden ceza almaktalar. Türkiye bir çocukların en fazla olduğu cezaevlerinde olduğu ülke haline gelmiş durumda. 783 bebek anneleriyle birlikte şu anda cezaevlerinde maalesef. Bu süreç bizim üzerimizde ciddi bir baskıyla birlikte ilerliyor. Aslında bize yönelik baskılar sadece bizi değil tüm toplumu da etkisizleştirmeye, susturmaya, korkutmaya dönük bir araca da dönüşüyor. Bizler haklarımızı aramak için mücadele etmekten vazgeçmeyeceğiz.
So as you can witness today from all these stories that we've heard, and the many different ways that people have been impacted by the abuse and violence that has been happening in Turkey since 2016 coup. And it's been interesting to hear today the depth of the individual resilience that comes through among the people, but also how, this is impacting in so many ways, from individuals to their families to communities and much more. And I guess my hope for all of us is, despite the many, many issues that we see in our communities, it's often these human rights violations that happen quietly and under the radar that we really need to turn our attention to. And what has been happening in Turkey is very problematic. And when we have situations in our world where governments can act with impunity, we don't have a strong basis for human rights. Human rights are such an important foundation for us to live in peace and to live with justice and to live with dignity. But in countries such as Turkey right now, the realities of human rights are not alive for all. And despite having internationally legally binding documents, such as the Convention Against Torture or Genocide, or even our Universal Declaration of Human Rights, is that these aren't playing out in our communities. And it's important now more than ever for all of us to work in solidarity and to increase the energy and to increase the noise to make sure that we can elevate the voices that are being oppressed and marginalized. So I ask you to continue to learn about what's happening in Turkey. I ask you to consider talking to your member of parliament or whoever your elected official is, to ask them to bring attention within the national assemblies, raise awareness, but let's speak up and let's stand with our Turkish brothers and sisters. Thank you for joining us today, and we'll look forward to talking to you more in the future.